I'm Nigel Sanger from John Gay Speedfit, and this is our second video in the series, and this is to show you how to pair up the Aura underfloor heating wireless system. And I'm going to use an existing example here to start off with, and we'll move on then to a display board. But this is just to show you how to prepare the components before you set up the system, and then you'll find the setting and pairing will be very, very simple. So we'll use this example just to show you what you need to know before you actually start pairing. So here we have the actuators on the 8-port manifold. One actuator for the conservatory, one actuator feeding the circuit to the office, 4 actuators controlling the 4 circuits for the living room, and 2 actuators controlling the 2 circuits for the kitchen that we're in at the moment. And these are all wired to the wiring center, and to keep with the logic, zone 1 is wired to zone 1, zone 2 is wired to zone 2, the 4 actuators for zone 3 are wired to zone 3, and the 2 actuators for zone 4 are wired to zone 4. And I've actually written, filled the label in on here. So zone 1 on the wiring center is actually controlling the first actuator, and that's controlling the conservatory. Zone 2 on the wiring center is controlling the second actuator, and it's the rear office. Zone 3 is actually controlling actuator 3, 4, 5 and 6, and it's the living room. And the zone 4 on the manifold is controlling actuator 7 and 8, which is the kitchen. So now I know when I set up the system, I know that I have to pair the thermostat in the conservatory to zone 1, I have to pair the thermostat in the rear office to zone 2, I have to pair the thermostat in the living room to zone 3, and I have to pair the thermostat in the kitchen to zone 4. I haven't used 5, 6, 7 and 8. And on this particular one, because it's a combi boiler, there's no hot water timer to connect to. Now, I've actually written all this down, so armed with this, armed with this information, I can now go and pair my stats to the wiring center. So let's go and do that. Right, we're now ready to pair everything up. We've got all the information we need, and we've now powered everything up. So we've powered the wiring center up. In this instance, we've also using a boiler receiver, but don't worry about that. If you haven't got one, it doesn't make any difference at all. We've also put the batteries in the thermostats, and I don't know if you can see, but they've started up and they're flashing use underfloor heating. Now, at the moment, if we look at the red light on the wiring center, that's flashing on and off steadily. That means the wiring center is ready to pair up. If it was flashing red, red, off, red, red, off, it would mean it's already been paired, but it's not in the network. When it's steady red, it means it's been joined to the network, but on, off, it means it's been powered up initially and it's ready to join the network. So we know that that's ready. The thermostats are powered up. If they remain powered, then you'd have to power them by turning on the power. And we've plugged the coordinator in. Now, this coordinator could be plugged into a USB plug. In this instance, it's plugged in and powered from the hub, but it doesn't matter whether it's powered from the hub or whether it's powered from your USB connector. And this is the unit that's going to help us to sort of pair the system up. When we power it up, we leave it for a minute, and that charges the capacitor or the little battery that's inside it. It's glowing red at the moment, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold this button for 5 seconds. As we can see, it's flashing red. Yep. Now, what it's doing now is it's scanning the system to see what components that it can find. Yeah. As we can see, the light has gone steady on the wiring center, and that means it's found the wiring center, and it's also found the boil receiver, and it's paired them together. Now, you couldn't have much easier than that. We didn't actually do anything. We've already got the wiring center in the network, and we've got the boil receiver in the network. So we know what we want to pair to, and we know which wiring center. Or do we? Because we could have more than one wiring center. We could have up to 9 wiring centers. So one little additional piece of information is, which wiring center do we want? If we've only got one, you'd assume it's going to be number 1. Let's check. There's 2 ways to check. By pressing the little white button here, yeah, the network button, it will temporarily flash zone 1. Now, that tells me that this wiring center has been assigned a number 1, because it's the only one in the system. If there was 2, there'd be some wiring centers would flash, obviously different. 1 is wiring center 1, zone 1 and 2 lit up, flashing is wiring center 2, zone 1, 2 and 3 flashing at the same time as wiring center 3. You could very easily find out, but what if it's in a cupboard? Do you really want to be crawling into a cupboard to check 3 or 4 wiring centers? Well, there's another way we can do it. We can also press the coordinator, and the coordinator will send out a signal to all the wiring centers on the system and tell them to flash their ID number. Yeah. So now we have 10 minutes to walk around and find out which wiring center is which. Again, there's no difference. This is wiring center 1. And you can press the ID at any time during pairing or after pairing. Yeah. Now flashing red. So now we know that this is wiring center 1, and we know which zones we need to control. So what we'll do now, we'll zoom into the this thermostat, and we'll actually show you the process for pairing this thermostat to the wiring center. I think you'll find it very easy. Now, earlier on, we looked at the rooms that we wanted to pair up and where we wanted to pair them to. So, for this example, we're going to pair the conservatory thermostat to wiring center 1, and we know that the conservatory actuators have been wired to zone 1. So we need to pair this to wiring center 1, zone 1. And how do we do that? So if we zoom in, I'll show you how this happens. So, as I said, the first touch on the button shows us the thermostat. It lights up the backlight. So it's saying use underfloor heating. If I use the button to scroll up, use RADs, this thermostat can be used to control a number of different components. The one we're interested in at the moment is use underfloor heating, and it's the default menu, so there's no need to scroll up or down. We just press yes, we want to use underfloor heating. You saw it quickly flash join, and then it went to pair. It's asking us, do we want to pair? So again, we use the bottom right arrow, which is a tick, and we say yes, we want to pair. And the screen shows now the pairing screen. On the top, the W is representative of the wiring center, and next to it you can see the icon flashing is 1. That's wiring center 1. We compare it to wiring center 2, 3, 4, 5. You see the logic, but we want to pair it to wiring center 1, so we press tick. Now the icon now flashing on the bottom left, that's the group option. Now that's something we'll cover in another video, but usually people don't want to go in groups. If you do, you can scroll up to group 1 or group 2, and the 2 horizontal lines on the bottom represent no groups. So that's the option that we will tick. And now the icon is flashing on the bottom right, and that's asking us which zone do we want to pair this thermostat to. We've already chosen wiring center 1, now we need to choose the zone. And we know from the information we gathered that it's zone 1. If it was any other zone, we would just scroll up or down to the zone we want. Press tick, and that's it, it's paired. Actually, it's very easy. If I didn't have to do the explanation while I was doing it, that would probably have taken about 5 or 6 seconds. Let's just check whether that pairing has in fact worked. We'll come over to the sun icon, and I'll lift the temperature right up to 28 degrees. And what I've done, I've asked the thermostat to call overheat on zone 1. And as we can see, it's now calling for heat on zone 1. And if I move it off and put it into frost, you can see that it's actually turned off zone 1. There's normally a 10-second delay on just the first time the stat calls the heat. After that, it's very, very responsive. And if we go down to the next thermostat, I'll pair this up without the explanation, or with a very quick explanation, and you can see how easy it is. Use underfloor heating, yes. Pair, yes. Wiring center 1, yes. No groups, and zone 2. There you are. That's how quick it is to pair up once you're armed with all the information and you've prepared. Now, once you've paired all the thermostats up and tested that they're working, we need to lock all that information in. So we go back to the coordinator, again a 5-second press, the opposite of putting it into pairing mode, and we've now taken the coordinator out of pairing mode. It's locked all that information, it's locked all those settings in, and everything is paired up. So once you've prepared, once you know what zones you need to pair to and what the actuators are wired to, the actual pairing process is really, really simple. It's the preparation that matters, and to actually go between rooms, setting the thermostats up, you're probably talking 1 or 2 minutes per thermostat, but actually pressing the buttons, you're probably looking at 10 seconds. So I hope that's made it look relatively easy, because it is a very easy thing to do, and I hope you enjoy setting your Aura control system up.